Boker Tov, everybody. Okay, today's daf is Chaf Gimel, and we pick up on the Mishnah of Chaf Bet Amud Bet. And oh no, I'm sorry, I correct that. Today's daf is. I was testing you. Okay, today's daf is Chaf Daled. And we pick up at the new parak at the bottom of Chaf Gimel Bet. Okay, here we go. Arusa the Shomer Yabam. Now that we've sort of gone through the procedure, okay, and by the way, I want to remind everybody, contrary to the popular myth or imagination, she hasn't blown up. Right, not only in the Torah does she not die, but even in the Mishnah and the Gemara, it never says she dies. The one line is, get her out lest she make the Azarat Tameh, and the Gemara interpreted that to mean lest she become a Nida. So just want to remind you of that because that's not the popular imagination. Anyway, turning to the next parak, now that we're done with the whole process, we began...
where does that come from?
I don't know. Now that we're done with the whole process, we go back and we look, again, at sort of a classic halachic analysis, right? Normally it's unusual, right? Not unheard of, like you get a lot in Kachim or whatever, but unusual for a series of Mishnayot to be describing a step-by-step process, right? Normally it's sort of talking about the criteria, the categories, who's in, who's out, etc. So that's the type of thing that now we shift back to, identifying which types of people qualify and don't qualify and similar issues. So Arusa v'shomer yabam lo shotot v'lo not lo ktuva. So a woman who is an arusa, she's betrothed, she accepted kiddushin, like nowadays the ring or whatever, and from the man, which means that legally she's married. If she commits adultery, it is the same act of adultery, and she would be executed if there was witnesses. It means that she would be forbidden to her husband. Children would be mamzerim, the whole 9 yards. The only difference is that the marriage is at this stage on paper. They have not yet begun a lived married life together, which means that the sort of reciprocal obligations aren't present. They're not having sex. They're not, making house together, etc. That's the arusa. The shomer yabam is the woman whose husband died, leaving her with no children, and now there's a brother, and she is awaiting that brother to either do yibum. She is awaiting yibum, or possibly chalitza. In that case, there's only an isser lav for her to, sleep with another man or marry another man. Nevertheless, though, what's present now is seen as zika, some type of continuation of the relationship of the marriage with the dead brother, and that's sort of existing quasi and in potential with the current brother. So that is also a type of relationship that is not complete, but there's a quasi thing going on here that could be actualized.
So does Yavam kinui on her?
Yeah. So the halacha
is there's more than one?
Well, the halacha is lo shosos v'lo not los ksuvasa. So if the husband or the brother does kinui and then the woman goes into seclusion, then they cannot be forced to drink. And because they cannot be forced to drink, but they do become forbidden as a sotah, that's implicit. So here's a woman that's going to be forbidden to her husband because she's a sotah, not definitely committed adultery, but suspected, and it's gone through the process. So she's forbidden to her husband, and she can't drink to resolve it, so she doesn't get the ksuva. And we're going to discuss in a minute what happens when it's nobody's fault. But the basic rule is when it's her fault that she can't drink, she doesn't get the ksuva. When it's his fault, or when it's her fault, the whole situation, she doesn't get the ksuva. When it's his fault, she does get the ksuva. This is considered to be her fault, because even though it's nobody's fault that she can't go through with the procedure, she's just an arusa, not a nesua. Nevertheless, it's seen as she didn't have to go in private in seclusion with this man after the husband warned her. So therefore, it's a case that can't be resolved. She's forbidden. She's seen as the responsible party, and therefore she does not get a ksuva. Now, the issue about the yabam is interesting because Rashi says, we discussed earlier what happens if a shomer yabam is known to have slept with another man. Is she forbidden to her husband or not? Right? And partly that gets to the question, or husband, or the brother. It's the brother now not able to do yibum. Is that, how much do we sort of see that like a woman who committed adultery, not because of the gravity of the sin, but because there's a quasi-marriage that has continued? How much would that make her forbidden legally on the brother? So Rashi says, even if she weren't forbidden on the brother would be entitled to say, but I refuse to marry such a woman. So that's why she would be divorced without getting her ksuva. Tosfos disagrees. Tosfos says we learned earlier that if a woman would not be forbidden had she done the act, then she cannot become a sotah. She cannot become forbidden and be suspected of having done the act. sort of makes sense,
Yeah.
right? How does her status of a sotah make her more forbidden than if it was known that she had done it? So Tosfos says we're working with the position that she is forbidden on her husband, or he gives a variant reading, which is a little complicated. I'm not going to get into, but anyway, the simple explanation is we're working with the assumption that if this Shemeret Yabam slept with another man, she would be forbidden to her husband, or not her husband, the brother. Yes.
Is there anything to say about the language, the low note ketubah instead of the teitzei below?
Oh, I don't know. That's an interesting question. Why doesn't it say teitzei? Why doesn't it say teitzei? Yeah, it's a good point, because teitzei really is more relevant because, but the basic point is we're going to see cases that it's going to be that they are notlot ktuvata. So so the easy thing to do is lo shotot v'lo notlot. First of all, there's a parallel: lo shotot v'lo notlot, and then we're going to have cases of lo shotot v'notlot. So it's just the easier sort of parallel.
So there's more than one brother. Who does this kinui?
That is a good question. If there's more than one brother, is anyone entitled to do the kinui? Yeah, that's a really good question. And if she becomes, I don't think we discussed it either. And if she becomes forbidden on one brother who did the kinui, does she remain permissible to the other brothers? Like, that's a really good question. Okay, Shenemar asher tiste isha tachas isha, that a woman will stray from her husband, and isha, her husband, means not her arus, but her isha, like a full husband, prat la'arusa v'shomer yabam, to exclude the cases where the marriage is not yet full. Now, of course, then the question would be, so how do you know that they can make her into a sotah? How do you know that you can do the kinui and that part of the parsha still applies? And the Gemara will learn that out, that part of the parsha still applies, even though you can't finish the procedure. Okay, almana l'kohen gadol, grusha v'chalutza kohen hedyot. Let's say the marriage, even before she was suspected of committing adultery, let's say the marriage was already forbidden for a certain perspective. Now, if it's forbidden like an isser kares, like it's a what do you call it? Like it's one of the cases of incest, then the marriage isn't binding. But a marriage that's forbidden by an isser lav, the best examples are isrei kahuna, like grusha and chalutza, etc. Could also take the case of a mamzer, nesin, ammoni, moavi, etc. But things that are a simple negative prohibition, the marriage actually is binding, even though it's in violation. So the question is, if somebody is in a binding marriage that's in violation of the law, because it's transgressing one of these negative prohibitions, is the husband entitled to charge his wife and to make her into a sotah and to bring her to the Beit HaMikdash, if at some level we should be saying you guys shouldn't be remaining married anyway, you should be getting divorced regardless. Okay, so that's what it talks about. So let's take a look. If a Kohen Gadol is married to a widow, or a grusha, a divorcee, or chalutza, a woman who's undergone chalitza, is married to a Kohen Handiot, there's a question of chalutza is d'oraita or d'Rabbanan. The Bavli tends to assume it's d'Rabbanan for her to marry a Kohen. Mamzeret u'netina Yisrael, or a woman who's a mamzer, or a netin, who is one of the sort of Canaanite tribes or whatever. I don't want to get into netina, it's a whole discussion. Anyway, married to a normal Yisrael. Or Ubat Yisrael, let's say it's not the woman's issue, it's the man's issue. She's a totally normally born Jewish woman, and he is a mamzer or natin. In all those cases, though there's a negative prohibition that is that about the marriage.
Or Machzir Gushato, right?
Yeah, I guess that could be. Lo shotot v'lo, that's a good point. Lo shotot v'lo notlot ktuva. In those cases, she doesn't drink, because it is not considered isha in the sense of a marriage that should be remaining. It is binding, but a marriage that's a legitimate marriage that should be remaining. So, but also she doesn't get the ketuvah, because again, she is in a way nobody is to blame that it's not ketuvah, that it's not shotot, but she is still the one who went into seclusion after she was warned. So that is seen that if you can't finish the process, she doesn't get a ketuvah. The elu lo shotot v'lo notlot ketuvah. That's interesting. We just gave a list of people that were lo shotot v'lo notlot, but that's based on people whose sort of nature of their marriage is such that it excludes them from being shotot. Now we're going to do with people who are not shotot because of the way the process took place. So let's take a look. Homeret tmea ani, if a woman confesses her guilt, the shabola edim she tmea, or if witnesses came that she had committed adultery, so there's no point in finishing the process then. The homeret any shotah, a woman who refuses to drink.
Well,
okay, now What? No, she's not lo ksuvasa. The question was about.
No, but the shotot, right? Sometimes
Well,
the
right,
mashkin
yeah. After you, this, yeah, right. Assuming that this is before the award, right? There's some discussion after the name has been erased, but we're not getting into that now. So these cases, she's refusing or she's confessing, or we know. So you're not going to go through the process. She's seen as the obstacle here, or she's actually has committed it or confessed to have committed it. So therefore, she does not get her ksuva.
These are not arusot.
No, that's what I said.
Right.
First category was about the nature of the marriage. Now we're talking about normal marriage, nature of the process. Okay. Now, now though we switch gears. Amar Ba'ala, let's say it's the husband who says, Eini mashkat. You know what? I know I schlepped her here, but I changed my mind. I refuse to go through with the process. And or the husband is the one that had sex with her after she doesn't literally have to mean badera, after she gave a sotah before they did this process, and he's not allowed to. So in those cases, he's the problem. Not only is he not allowed to, but we say if he did, then the waters won't work. So he clearly is the one that's sort of preventing things from going forward. In that case, not los ksuva, the lo shotot. They do get the ksuva. They obviously can't drink, but they do get the ksuva. He was to blame.
And they can continue remaining married, right?
Right, because she's still a sotah. Now, meisu ba'aleyan ad shelo shatu. Let's say it's nobody's fault. Let's say the husband dies, okay? Act of God, before they got to it, okay? So what do you do there? She gets the ktuva and she doesn't drink. Either drink or don't get the ktuva. And since you can't drink, don't get your ktuva. Okay, so this is a case where nobody is to blame now, but it's still Beit Shammai is willing to say maybe since he's in the end the one who died. Okay, so even in the sense of cold world, we'll see that attribute the problem to him, and therefore she's entitled to get her ktuva. Okay, so that is the debate there. So basically, cases where either because of the nature of the marriage or because of the nature of the proceedings, you cannot drink. So you don't. And when it's the husband's fault, she does get her ktuva. When it's not the husband's fault, she does not get her ktuva. Now Tosfos raises the question, which is. No, I thought this was Tosfos. Hold on. One minute. No, okay, I thought there was another point. All right, let's go on. So it says like this. Where are we? All right, fine. So now the Gemara continues. Now, how about a woman who's not allowed, a marriage that's not allowed, but it's not allowed because you're violating a law. It's not allowed because you're violating some rabbinic issue. And even the rabbinic issue, it's not like chalitza, which is sort of an expansion of a doraita and so on. It's more, and it has to do with personal status. It more emerges from a concern. What is that? That's a case of Menekes Chavero and Mu'uberes Chavero. The problem here is, so if a man marries a woman while she is nursing a child, like her husband died, and now she's nursing a child that she was left with from her previous husband, right? The concern is that if now this man he won't be concerned, it's not his kid, and therefore he'll have sex with the woman and she'll get pregnant and have another kid, and that will sort of, there's a concern that will sort of compromise her care for or her nursing of, the current child. So in those types of cases, so Mu'uberes Chavero is 1 minute.
Married and was pregnant.
Right. Basically, it's the same point. We don't want her to, if she needs to be spending, like the assumption is like the next 2 years, raising and taking, spending a lot of focused care on this current child. So if it's your child, you the man, right, and you decide to have kids in quick succession, then that's your choice. But here we're concerned that he's not going to make a choice for the, taking into account the welfare of the child because it's not his child, and they'll have a kid, within 2 years' time, and that won't be necessarily the best decision for the current born or unborn child. So therefore we say that he should not marry her until during that period for 2 years. Actually, it's interesting because it raises an interesting question that Rav Yehuda Herzl Henkin basically said that he would like regularly, not Rabbi Yosef Eliyahu Henkin said that, in Lithuania, whatever, just in general, he would regularly give heterim for women to use birth control for 2 years after they had a child so that they could focus on the current child. And actually, he would extend it at 3 or 4 years or whatever. But here you already see in the Gemara, in a sense, the Gemara isn't saying you can or you may or you should use birth control, but it's talking about like an acknowledgement that having children in quick succession could be not for the welfare, and if it's not your child, we're concerned you won't make the right decision.
So we're saying that
so anyway, so what?
You're saying on the books there's a law not to marry a woman, within 2 years of having a kid?
Yes.
That's
yes.
really halacha?
Yeah. Okay, so he went in and he did this, which is a rabbinic issue. It's not like an issue about personal status or whatever. It's a rabbinic concern around these cases. So what's the halacha now? And then kina v'nistera. So is this considered like the case where the marriage is in violation of a biblical prohibition that he's not entitled to make her drink because in some reason they shouldn't be married right now? So let's take a look. So Meir applies the same principle. Yeah, for whatever reason, they shouldn't be married right now. You are not allowed to go through with the procedure. So you can make her into a Sotah, can't go through with the procedure. No, because in that type of a case, he wouldn't have to divorce her. So if somebody went ahead and violated, they could go ahead and live separate. And they wouldn't have to get divorced. We wouldn't demand that they got divorced. We would say, go ahead, live separately, and then start living together after the 2 years are up, after the child is 2 years old. So since we wouldn't demand a divorce in that case, the marriage is legitimate, and therefore they can go ahead and go and do the whole procedure, do the shotot. Okay. Now let's say this woman is, for one reason or another, not able to have children. Okay, Eilenis is a woman that has very masculine characteristics, and is considered not only to be infertile, but to actually something. I don't know what exact condition it's referring to, but very sort of masculine characteristics. An old woman who can't have children. Ein Late is interesting what it refers to. Rashi says it means that she drank some type of a thing that made her that some sterilizing potion. Tosfos has another explanation. Tosfos says, why don't you just say akara, which is like the classic biblical example of a woman who can't have kids, an infertile woman. But anyway, one way or another, it's a woman who can't have children. So in those cases, should we say, and the man is married to her? Now you could say, so you can't say v'niksa v'nizra zara. You could say the opposite. Maybe that's why they want to go through the process. So it's v'niksa v'nizra zara or something. But no, that's not the issue. The issue is similar to what we've been discussing. Maybe we should say they shouldn't still be married. Because the man has a mitzvah puravu, they need to get divorced, he needs to have kids, etc. So is that enough of a reason to say, since they shouldn't be married, we won't sort of call it tachas isha, like the case of the lav and the other cases,
I don't understand.
And therefore she can't make her drink.
Neither married for 50 years, right?
Yeah.
He can always take another wife if his mitzvah.
So let's see. That's going to be the response. Let's take a look.
And what about a katana? Does the same thing? Does it fall under this?
No,
because she can't.
Eventually, doesn't matter. That eventually she will. This is a case where clearly this marriage will not be a marriage that will produce children. So therefore, what's the story? Okay. So that's the interesting question. But let's say he's already had kids with another wife. Or what? Right. I think that's why it gave the example of, you're right, because the Cana is just older.
They've been married for 50 years.
Yeah, right. So the presumption is that they haven't had kids, okay, together, or even he hasn't fulfilled proof. It's a very strange idea because, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with marriage, especially in a polygamous society, we can marry another woman, right? But anyway, and especially if you see it as his obligation, not their obligation, So anyway, let's take a look. It says, where are we? So the first ruling is, sorry, they shouldn't be married, so you don't get to do the drinking. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, what do you mean? He could always just marry another wife and even keep this wife. Okay, so we'll see what that debate is. I think our intuition goes with Rabbi Eliezer for a variety of reasons. Okay.
Maybe should drink.
Yeah. V'shar kol anashim. So that's okay. So it's interesting, right? We started with women that were excluded because the marriage wasn't complete. Then it's sort of like we doubled back. Then we moved to cases where the marriage was in violation. Then we talked about problems that came as a result of the proceedings. And then we doubled back to talk about marriages that were in violation. Okay, but marriages that were in less violation, not biblical violation, rabbinic violations of different sorts. Okay, and now we say the shar kol anashim, all other women, oshertot olonot los ksuva. Okay, they get the choice. You're able to drink, so you either drink, and if for whatever reason you're not going to drink, you won't get your ksuva. Ashes Kohen, Sotah u'meteres leba'ala. The wife of a Kohen, once she drinks and she comes out okay, she can go back to her husband. The Mercer says like pshita, but given that the wife of a Kohen we know is, it's more easy for a woman to be forbidden to a Kohen. We might have had some havamina that even after the proceedings there would be a problem, and we'll talk about that in the Gemara. Eshet Saris, a woman married to a man who is a eunuch, who is not able to have sex.
Or if he's very old.
Sotah, well, yeah, but okay, we'll see. Sotah, she will drink. Now, so that's interesting. Even though he right now cannot have sex with her, that does not seem somehow, that does not prevent her from, from him saying you shouldn't be sleeping with other men. Nevertheless, the Gemara is going to raise the issue that we're going to see in a minute, that a woman is only go through this proceedings if she has had, if her marriage has been consummated with her husband, if they've had sex, okay? So this case of Saris, according to that understanding, which isn't in the Mishnah, but that's an understanding that the Gemara adopts, would have to be a case that he became a Saris after their marriage had been consummated, all right? Now, Aidei kol arayot mikanin, chutz mina katan umimi she'eno ish. Let's say the man suspects her not just of committing adultery, but of committing another sexual sin, sleeping with her brother. I don't know. So the fact that there's another sin independent of adultery going on does not prevent the proceedings of Sotah. Because maybe you would have sort of said like a kimle b'derabamine. 1 minute. Well, before we look at it as adultery, we have to sort of look at it through this other lens. Nope, you can say that the process still works even in those cases, with the exception, the one case that a person that she's suspected of that would not make her a Sotah, suspected of sleeping with, would either be a minor or somebody who is not a man. So we'll have to see. Very suggestive phrase. I'll let you imagine what that might be. We'll see it in the Gemara, not today. Okay. Yes.
There's a woman sleeping with a young boy is considered an arayot, but not vice versa.
No. Arayot, no, these are not necessarily arayot. Arayot, if you're suspected of a woman suspected of arayot, then that is Sotah. Here is the only type of person a woman could be suspected of sleeping with that would not make her a Sotah. So this is not a subcategory, right? This is not necessarily. There's not a subcategory of arayot. Okay, this is what type of men can she be suspected of and still be a Sotah? Yes, arayot, but here are the following people that she could be suspected of sleeping with that would not make her Sotah: a minor and somebody who's not an ish.
Is she suspected of sleeping with him or
having sex? I'm being euphemistic.
No, thank you. But I was just wondering, like, with the young kid, that I mean, at some point there's a question of whether or not he can have sex. So
right.
The question that
they
can't. That the assumption is that they can't have sex.
Well, no. It's not that they physically couldn't. It's not that they physically couldn't. It's that it's legally would not be significant.
Then what happens?
Okay. All right, we'll see. Okay, but anyway, now the interesting question is, I would ask before you would get to Misha Eno Ish, which is very, suggestive or whatever, provocative. I would ask, how about a non-Jew, right? Let's say she's suspected of sleeping with a non-Jew. That's not mentioned either, right? So anyway, let's think about that. I don't think that
these are
would
things
be
that Kedusha are not Tofeh. So a non-Jew would not.
Okay, Katan also it's not Tofeh.
Right, no, but I'm saying but it's at some point could be, right? Where's the common denominator?
I don't know. We'll see. Okay. The Elu Shabesin Mekanin Lehen. Now, the following women, their husband is not in a position to do kinoi, but the basin will step in on the husband's behalf if they sort of see that the woman is acting in ways that are raising suspicions and inappropriate and so on, which is interesting because it gets to the question raised at the beginning of the Masechet, whether asur lakanos or mutter lakanos. So maybe this is sort of saying, like, if basin is stepping in for an absent man, it sort of seems like it's sort of saying mitzvah or chiyuv lakanos, because who needs basin to get involved? right? Unless the point is that, that for a normal husband who's acting out of his own jealousy and suspicions or whatever, that we might say asur lekanos, because could be a lot of other things going on there that's making you suspect your wife than some objective concern. But maybe if it's a third party, right, maybe our general principle could be asur lekanos for the husband. But if it's a third party that doesn't have a vested interest, doesn't have passions about this whole thing or whatever, and sees a problem, maybe it is their responsibility, if the husband isn't around, to do something to address it. So that's what our mission says.
So we're not saying divorce, we're saying this low.
Well, let's take a look. The following people, the basin would step in and represent the husband and do kinoi. By the way, that's a big chiddush. Whoever said that anybody could be empowered to do kinoi other than the husband? Okay. Anyway, the following cases: mishanit charesh ba'ala. If the husband became a cheresh, a deaf mute, so he's not considered to be a bardat, right? He's not considered to have a legal power anymore. To be ve'elu cheresh ba'ala onishtateh, or he became. So one has to do with intellectual ability. Sotah is more like mental state. He's got he's. No, Sotah isn't demented. Sotah is more like mental illness. Thank you. Or simply he's just not around. He's being held in prison, and he's not able to see what his wife is or isn't doing.
Or if he takes he's abroad. Would that be the same thing?
Maybe, although one maybe then a message should be sent, and he should come back, and we shouldn't get involved at that stage. Exactly. Here he cannot control the situation. So in those cases, Beis Din steps in. That's a good point. Lola Ashkosa Amru, not that Beis Din would ever be able to represent the husband to the point of making her drink, Elipso Slamik Tuvata, which is like, okay, well, that's really helpful, because then what they do is they make her forbidden to her husband, and since it can't be resolved, right? Because the husband isn't in a position to bring her to Beis Din and to the Beit HaMikdash, and Beis Din can't. The immediate result of them stepping in is divorce and don't get your ksuva. So here's a woman that Beis Din sees acting in a suspicious manner. Beis Din could just say, maybe force the husband to, I don't know, to divorce her. Well, first of all, the question: how do you get a divorce if the husband is a cheresh or Sotah? So that's anyway a problem. But so the whole thing. Only once, if the husband gets better or gets released, well, maybe you could arrange for a get from prison, okay? But basically, rather than somehow sort of saying like, anyway, but Beis Din is doing is that Beis Din is not resolving. I mean, the way they resolve the situation is saying, we're going to try to get a divorce here, and she won't get a ksuba.
So if one of them say that,
Rabbi Yossi Omer aflash kosa lechashiyetzi balim Beis Asurin aflash kosa. No, Beis Din actually is empowered in order to make her drink. Okay, lechashiyetzi balim Beis Asurin yashkena, because when the husband does get freed, he can make her drink on the force of the Beis Din's kinoi. So actually, this is something that does not necessarily directly translate into divorce with no ksuva. They are setting the ground when the husband is at a state that he could divorce her if he gets better from his mental state, or if he gets freed or whatever. Maybe he doesn't have to divorce her. He can go through with the process at that stage. And then she's in a good anyway because she's not having sex with her husband, right? I mean, it's not getting sort of resolved as it is anyway. I mean,
the first thing you were trying to tell him that she gets the divorce.
Well, she can't get a divorce when he's a cheresh or a Sotah. The only case she could get a divorce where the husband is still not able to make her drink is from the prison. He could arrange a get from the prison,
so
right?
Someone's not mentally able to, you can't just have them hand over.
Yeah, so that becomes a real big case about can you do sort of like this is talking about the Beis Din doing kinoi and steer on behalf of the husband. Can a Beis Din give a get on behalf of the husband when the husband is mentally incapacitated or is in a coma or whatever? There have been some recent cases in Israel about that. Yeah, that's a real case. So problem. Yeah.
Just for clarification, so the bottom line on the ground, the mute and arayot is both
right.
Capital crimes and its execution if all the conditions apply. Correct. The only difference is the theological dimension of karet in the case of arayot. In other words,
I mean, well, yeah, some of the arayot are only karet. Adultery is punishable by the death penalty. Arayot, some are karet, some are chayv misa. Right, but yeah.
So on the bottom line,
yeah. But the arayot have nothing to do with the fact that she's married. They're completely different type of category. Right. So maybe we would. So the chiddush is that we still frame it, and we're able to still keep the marriage framing and go through the Sotah process about that.
Means she's not
guilty. The arayot either. Right. Exactly. It clears up both problems. Exactly.
So the first
Okay.
case you're basically saying is that they're forcing a divorce, and not
Well, the funny thing is, the question is, right now, nothing is happening because the husband's not in a state to give a divorce. So in the first case, I mean, okay, let's bracket for a moment arranging a divorce from prison. Okay, right now, nothing is happening. So in the first opinion, what they're doing is they're laying the groundwork so that if and when the husband is in a state to go ahead and come back and be in and et cetera, that now they've created a situation where he's going to divorce his wife without a ksuva. So
he's never gonna
as
be that
opposed to
state.
had they done nothing, then maybe then he would come back and maybe, I don't know, continue living with her or who knows what. So it's like interesting about, and is this really stopping her behavior? I mean, look, that's the other way of asking. Like, whose interests are they protecting? Are they trying to stop her behavior? I mean, if I was in that situation, as a woman, and I was saying like, okay, look, either way, right now, I'm going to get divorced without a ksuva. There's no other way this can get resolved. Might as well just keep up the affair. What do I got to lose at this stage, right? So it's not really like stopping her behavior. So it seems like it's like protecting his interests, right? So you're going to come back. You're going to find out about this. You're going to want to divorce your wife, but then you're going to have to pay the ksuva. So we're going to get involved at this stage in order to say, to protect your interests and make it easier. And maybe you won't want to divorce your wife, and we think you should divorce your wife. So we're going to like grease the, what's it called? Grease the wheels or something, not wheels or whatever, skid. So make it that much easier. It is interesting, right? It's like, I think we can understand trying to represent his interests, but the problem is how it doesn't exactly play out that way.
But if we know he's
what?
Right? If she cheated on him, he doesn't.
That's correct, but we don't know. All we know is that they made her into a sotah through going through the process. We don't know what she actually did.
But he's never going to get better,
right?
I mean, because he wouldn't be able to actually prove.
Right, exactly. There's no proof. There's just suspicion. She went into seclusion. They'll do kinoi. She goes into seclusion. We don't have any evidence that she actually did anything wrong, right? So, and we are turning the situation into one where there's only one possible conclusion when he shows up: divorce without a ksuva.
There's a lower level of necessary evidence to put them through a social ritual than to give them a divorce without a ksuva.
A divorce without a no, not necessarily. I mean, there are cases where divorce could be without a ksuva, even not based on adultery and based on a whole series of inappropriate. Right. So there has to be good evidence. I mean, that's a separate question, which we'll get to, like in to vote. Wait, did we do to vote? No. Okay, I keep getting lost where we are now in Nushim. Anyway, but we'll get to that about like what type of suspicions of adultery, etc. But the simple case of Sotah, right, is that even with just going to seclusion is enough of a basis. It's not because now maybe you committed adultery. I mean, that is, but it's because now you're Sotah and forbidden to your husband that their only result is. Yeah. But there might be other cases without black and white evidence that's enough to say divorce without a ksuva. That's a discussion. Yes.
Basically, it's an adjudication process that's in between hearsay and solid evidence of an act. Right.
Well, but that's fine if there's a way of resolving, the shotot. The interesting thing that we've seen in this Mishnah is that you can create that status even when from the outset there's no possible end result of shotot. That was a whole series of cases in the Mishnah where we knew from the get-go there would not be shotot, but you could create that status. Or logically you would say, why does the Torah allow that status if it can't be resolved? But the point might be, no, if there's those suspicions and those things happen and the husband wants, that could be enough to sort of say, like, a suspected adulteress now makes her forbidden, creates a status even without the possible resolution. 1 minute. So, but the point again to repeat here is, so might there be other cases that he would come back? First of all, he could come back and warn her again, right? Or could he, if she was continuing, could he come back and find witnesses to create enough circumstantial, maybe, okay? But bottom line is they're acting in a way, when you say they're stepping in on his behalf, I was just saying, like, maybe we'd say Astra Lakanos when it's your own husband and he's passionate and subjective, but Basin sees an objective problem that they want to address. But what the question I want us to ask ourselves is, what have they achieved? What through this? They have not, I don't think they have stopped her behavior, because once there's only one solution and it's the worst one possible, that certainly will not stop her from continuing this. And the degree to which they've protected his, so why do they need to get in to protect his interest? What, his financial interest? That's why they're getting involved? Presumably, yeah, but why is it their issue? They're only, the only other issue that I would understand is that they're saying, like, we think the guy needs to divorce his wife given what we've seen. So we're going to act in a way to pretty much ensure that he's going to divorce his wife. Okay, that. But I want us to.
Question stands. Right. Why should a Beit get involved in that?
No, because not because we think he should divorce his wife because they're fighting all the time. We think he should divorce his wife for halachic reasons because she's committed adultery. We're suspecting that she's committed adultery, and we don't want them. We don't want them to remain married in that case. Yeah.
So, can I infer from this that this is protecting his interest, because at some point he'll be able to take care of it if he's, let's say in a coma, right?
Right.
Which is the equivalent, I guess, of Nishtat in this kind of a case.
Yeah.
They would say, forget this whole kinoi thing. We'll just somehow write them a get. Or
no, but I'm not getting into that question about whether you can do a get for guys in a coma. That's not clear.
Yeah, but then, okay, fine. Then they would just not do the shotot then. This kinoi then, because there's no way he's going to be able to ever resolve this.
No, maybe they just want to punish her, and that's, I guess, the other thing that we haven't looked at. Maybe it's not going to stop her behavior, but maybe it's going to be a warning for future women. And we want to punish her. Mm-hmm. So even if the guy is never able to give her a get because he's a shota, he's never going to get better, he's going to die or whatever. We have now punished her that she's not going to get her.
It's not just to protect his interest.
Right. So I guess that's another way of thinking about it. It's not to protect his interest and not necessarily to end this marriage, but it's to prevent future types of cases, right? If women see that when their husband's in prison, they know that they can't go ahead and do whatever they want, that there's going to be a response and that they're going to be stripped of their ksuva, as a result, then hopefully that'll keep people in line.
You're saying nafkamina. If it's protects his interest, then you say,
right. All right, guys, I'm with Chava. Enough. I don't know how we got onto all this. Okay. I know it's interesting. We have a daf to do. Okay. Mishnah. Okay, Gemara. Mishnah hudelo shasya. Okay. So the Gemara says, okay, he doesn't. So in this case of a Rusin Shemer Yabam, she can't be made to drink. Hakinoi mekanila, but presumably it's clear that you can do the kinoi and make her into a sotah. Inani milia. How do you get this middle stage? Tanu Rabbanan. Daber b'nei Yisrael v'amarta. Speak to Bnei Israel and you should say to them, Ish, Kiti, Stay, Shto, etc. So what's the Daber Ve'amarta? Which is funny because the Gemara often makes a drush about that, but really it just says, speak saying the following, but it seems the Gemara seems to feel that Ve'amarta is superfluous. Oh, I don't know if that's what it is. Anyway, maybe. L'rabos arusa v'shemeres yabam, guys, enough. So to tell you that double language is that not even an arusa and shemeres yabam are in the parsha, even a bigger category than you would have suspected. Umasnisin mani Rabbi Yonasan here, and it's Rabbi Yonasan. To Tanya, we talked about. We're actually now going to see that it's a debate. Tachas isheich. It says va'at kisatis tachas isheich, that you strayed from your husband, and ishut here is the full marriage. Prat la'arusa, which excludes the case of an arusa, which is not ishus. Yochol, I mean, it's again paper marriage, but it's not a full marriage. Yochol shani motzi after. Now, interest says here maybe Shomer Yabam would not be able to go through the process of sotah. Talmud Lomar ish l'Rabos Rabbi Yoshaya. Rabbi Yoshaya says the double language of ish means that a Shomer Yabam actually there's enough of a marriage there continuing from the dead brother that actually can make her go through the whole sotah process even to the point of drinking. Rabbi Yonasan Omer tachas isheich prat l'Shomer Yabam. No. He says the Shomer Yabam cannot make her go through the process, and not only that, to me it's more obvious that the Shomer Yabam is excluded than the Arusa. Tachas Isheich, the first person I would exclude that's not the husband is the Shomer Yabam. Now, where are we? Maybe I won't exclude the Arusa case. Now, there's another tachas full marriage, prat la'arusa. So what you have to understand is there are two debates, like one halachic debate, but one conceptual debate. The halachic debate is that the first opinion, Rabbi Yoshaya, actually says that a shomer yabam can be made to drink. Okay, is treated like a normal wife. And Rabbi Yonasan is our Mishnah that says that both an arusa and a shomer yabam cannot be made to drink. Okay, so the debate is, can a shomer yabam be made to drink? The other debate is, which is the more of the two, which is more obvious to exclude, to say is not considered isha, okay, ishut. Okay, so Rabbi Yoshaya obviously thinks that an arusa is more obviously to exclude because he thinks that a shomer yabam does drink. But the other position, Rabbi Yonasan says, no, the first one I would exclude is a shomer yabam. So what's that debate about? So the Gemara says the following: Mar alimale arusa. One of them thinks that an arusa is more of an ishut, a woman that a man married. The kiddushay didei. First of all, he initiated it, so he there's a conscious choice to make her, his wife. V'soklin al yado, and she's fully married. She would get skila if she committed adultery. So it's full marriage, like they're 100% married. It's just they haven't begun to live together. But it was a choice of the two of them, and it's completely binding. Okay. What? Yeah. Right.
That should be proof against it. It's a different
No. I mean, it might not be the same, but the question is not, is it the same as Nisuin? The question is it it's weightier, right? It's very, very weighty. If adultery is punishable by death, the nature of the relationship is a very heavy one. It's a very weighty one. Okay, so it's not that it's the same as Nisuin. It's just that it's more closer to full ishut than Shomer Yabam. Shomer Yabam, you didn't will it. It was dumped on you, and the woman would not get a heavy punishment if she committed adultery. So this is a much more weighty relationship. So that's the one that you're more likely to include. Umar Alimale Shomer Yabam, and the other one says no. Shomer Yabam is more the one that should be included. The lo michzera mesira lechuppah, because it almost happens automatically. You don't have to do an act of going to the chuppah. You don't need to precede it with a kiddushin. You just sleep together, even if you're not intending to sleep together, and then it actualizes the sort of latent marriage that's already there. So therefore, there's more of a marriage that's present and ready to be actualized. Okay, so they have this different approaches. Now, bottom line though, Rabbi Yoshai, it's not just a hypothetical. Rabbi Yoshai in practice actually says that the case of Shomer Yabam, the brother, and again, it's a real good question if there are multiple brothers, but we'll bracket that. The brother can make her drink, even for suspecting her, and can make her go through the whole process, whereas the arus cannot. Okay, so that's Rabbi Yoshai, that's not our Mishnah. So now let's see the Gemara continues with that debate. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. I'm sorry. The other point though is, so based on the pasuk of Tachasi Sheikh, we exclude one or both of these women from going through the process. On the other hand, from the pasuk of Daber b'nei Israel v'amarta, we include them in the parsha to some degree. So how do we balance that? They're included in the parsha for the beginning of the parsha. What's the beginning of the parsha? The Rabbi of Amarta is right at the beginning. That's the kinui. They're excluded where it says Tachas Isha or Tachas Sheikh, which is the end of the parsha, which is the drinking. So they're excluded from the drinking, but they're included in the kinui. Okay.
You know you're going to feel jealous, but you can't do that.
No, what you can do, you warn. No. Again, remember, kinoi for the Gemara is a legal process, right? You warn her, and she goes into seclusion, and that makes her forbidden as a sotah. Whereas if we would say she's excluded from kinoi, even if the husband was jealous and warned her in seclusion, she was. Once you go through these stages, halachically she's a sotah, which means they're forbidden to sleep together, right? But we have no process for resolving it, right? Which is the.
Well, he'd give her a divorce,
exactly.
Then know what to do with it.
Okay, so the one says, okay. Hi ish my Rabbi Yonasan, hi ish my avidle. What does Rabbi Yonasan do with ish, which Rabbi Yoshaya used to include the case of Shomer Yabam? So mibayale l'rabos eishes cheresh veishes shota veishes shia. Include the case that the Beis Din can at least the Beis Din can represent and do kinoi for the wife of a cheresh, the wife of a shota, and what's shimon seems more. Rashi says lakoi b'timhon leiv. It seems like another case of like a fugue state or something, not so much of a mental illness in terms of processing reality, but more just able fundamentally to be able to relate to reality. Rabbi Yoshaya. Let's focus. Rabbi Yoshaya. So Rabbi Yoshaya says, "Hi Tachas Isha, my avilei." So Rabbi Yoshaya, what does he do with Tachas Isha? Because Tachas Isha for Rabbi Yonasan excluded a Shomer Yabam. So Rabbi Yoshaya, who includes a Shomer Yabam, what does he do with Tachas Isha, which seems to exclude certain cases? So mibayel lahakish ish leisha v'isha leish. Okay, to connect the man to a woman, woman to a man. What that's about, we'll get to in like 2 days. Let's not worry about that right now. Fine. Now the verse says like this: El time to honey cry. So the reason that we are excluding an arusa or a shomer yabam or a shomer yabam, not or whatever. Anyway, is because of the verse. The pasuk says it's not full ishus, and that's why they're being excluded. Halav hachi. If it wasn't for the verse of Isha, we would say Havemina Arusa Shasya. Then Arusa could be made to drink, right? If we not sort of have that word that suggested it had to be a full marriage. So the Gemara says 1 minute. Vakiyabi Asi Rabbi Acha bar Chanina midroma. Rabbi bar Chanina came from the south. Also Vaisi Masnisa biadeh. He came and he brought the following bright in his hand, and this is what I referred to earlier, which isn't in the Mishnah, but is a teaching that the Gemara that's presented here that the Gemara embraces, and it's the following teaching. It says, "Mibaladei ishech, v'tein ish bachas shechavto mibaladei ishech," and a man lied with you other than your husband. So that's the pasuk, and the drush is the following: Misha kadma shchivas baal leboel. You could only do the process of sotah if the husband and wife have consummated their marriage before she might have had sex with another man. Okay, so he had to have been there first, essentially. But if they never consummated their marriage and then she was suspected of sleeping with another man, he would not be able to make her undergo this process. Now, that's very interesting, right? What is that about? I mean, one way about thinking about that is that it's a type of point of similar to our Mishnah, which is, which is the degree of ishut, right? Only if the marriage has like fully been actualized and realized, and not even that they've just started living together and stood under a chuppah, but they've actually been intimate and have sex, only at that full stage of ishut, right? Only then is when he is able to, to be in that sort of position to do this. It could be one also though wonders, and I don't know if I've raised this before, but there definitely seems to be. People say this from position of evolutionary biology, but the Ramban also says it just from Pshat of the Psukim. There seems to be one of the main concerns, or a possible serious concern about adultery, is the concern about raising another man's children, right? About like, if another man slept with my wife, then those children are not mine, and that's the concern about the issue about zera. Okay, so the pasuk is v'shachav ish ota shichvat zera. What is a shichvat zera, right? Halachically, it would be the same issue if they had sex without ejaculation. So we don't even interpret shichvat zera halachically. We don't, we ignore that point. Okay, it has to be maybe royal, whatever. Anyway, but what's the point? So the Ramban says the point is that the reason the man is so jealous is because there's this concern about, like, deep down, which he might not even articulate to himself. It's like, if another man slept with my wife, then are these my kids? Okay, and that is actually interesting. Just to say an aside, Rav Moshe Feinstein basically had no problem with the idea of artificial insemination using another man's sperm, because obviously any concept of adultery or whatever only comes through an act of sex. So even if it's another man's sperm, big deal. And other poskim, like the Tzitz Eliezer, said that, what are you talking about? It's quasi-adultery, and the children would be quasi-mamzerim, because another man's sperm, even without a sex, is pretty much adultery, is what he said. And he quotes the Ramban on the parsha of Shechvat Zera, where the Ramban says that, like, that's what one of the concerns of adultery is. That's another man's seed. So if you have another man's seed without sex, it's almost like it's adultery. So Rav Moshe, in a fascinating tshuva, basically said, like, I don't know what he's talking about. He's obviously being influenced by outside values. These are not Torah true values. I only do halacha. I'm not influenced by such stuff, which is so fascinating because it's actually like pshat of the psukim. It's a pshat. The Ramban says it, and like this dismissing of this is completely foreign values. But anyway, from a legal position, it's not adultery without an act of sex. The reason I raise all of this here is because, is it possible a man is concerned that they're not his kids if he's never had sex with his wife? Sure. But nevertheless, I think, but first of all, then he'll know they're not his kids if he's never had sex with his wife. But I think that, again, what we see, this focus on like zera, my kids, mine, etc., v'nikasav and Yisra Zara is the end of the parsha as well. So I do think that might be a piece of this idea about why, like, they have to have already consummated their marriage for this whole parsha to be relevant. Yes.
Why is the connection made between zera, another man's children, and adultery, as opposed to kimi? In other words, I can understand every time you see that child, the feelings of rage and jealousy come up again, as it were.
Right.
Not exactly the same as adultery, because you could have an adulterous act without producing children.
Right. I'm not sure what you're saying.
So in other words,
I'm just saying. I'm not saying adultery is only about that, but I'm saying that that's part of what fuels the kinui. The kinui is, that's a piece of what's going on.
So they Gilgul, you can still get her for those other time frames.
That's true. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so anyway, but that's a very important and interesting halacha that it can only apply once it's been what's it called, consummated. So Amarami Bar Chama. So anyway.
So that's to drink it, or that's to
that's a good question. Let's say to drink, certainly to drink it. Actually, it's a very good question. I don't know. I have to check on that. But why did we have to exclude an arusa? Well, it's got to be to drink it because you can you can do kinoi by an arusa without having sex, right? So it would be only for drink. So why do we have to exclude an arusa from a pasuk of tachas isha? Let's just exclude her from drinking because they haven't had sex yet with her husband. Okay, so the Gemara says, Amarami Bar Chama mishkachas lo kagon shebal arus b'veis avia. Oh no, maybe she did have sex with her husband while she was still in arusa. There they were. She's still living in her father's house. The emphasis of beis avia is they haven't made home together. She's still living in her father's house. It's the period of betrothal, but they got a little carried away, so they had sex before the chuppah. Okay, and she would still be in arusa. Now, by the way, in Ksuvas, we will find out that actually was the minhag in Yehuda, which is that they would go in private. They wouldn't dafka have sex, but they'd spend time together in private after the Erusin, and the Gemara acknowledged that sometimes it would lead to sex. But nevertheless, sex does not automatically make a woman who's an arusa into an asua when it's not in the context of beginning the married life, when it's not in the context of nisuin. Rashi is actually interesting. Rashi says, arus beveis avia biznus. So I assume what Rashi means when he says biznus, I mean, for God's sakes, they are legally married, but I assume he means not in the context of now we're beginning our married life together. Okay, so anyway, so it is possible. So that's how you have it. So the Gemara says, and that's why in that scenario, we would have thought that he could make her drink, and the pasuk says he can't make her drink. So now the Gemara continues. 1 minute. But how do you have the case of Shomer Yabam where they've had sex, where she's not yet his wife? As soon as they've had sex, right? Anybody remember, Yavamus, even if it's like unintentional or whatever, whatever the circumstances are, automatically that actualizes the full ishus. So how can you have a case? Why do we need to exclude, according to Rabbi Yonas on Shomer Yabam, if you'll never have a scenario where they've already had sex and her still being a Shomer Yabam?
So yes, that's before the brother married her?
I know. So let's see what the Gemara says. Like the Yabam had sex with her while she was in her father-in-law's house, meaning it's funny that phrase that way, while she was in her, let's say, dead husband's house. Maybe after her husband died, she went to live with his father. Anyway, you're calling her still a Shomer Yabam if they've already had sex? She's his full wife. Damar Rav says, that even if they have sex with the case of Shomer Yabam, not in the context of starting the marriage, they just have sex like business, as it were. Rav still says that I don't care what the context is, it's a full marriage. Okay,
she's in the house of her dead husband's father.
Yes.
Come in.
Right. Okay. So what's the case? Well, you have Shomer Yabam after sex that you needed the pasuk to exclude it. So the Gemara says, Kishmuel, the Amar lo kana ledvarim hamorim beparsha. Now, Shmuel says that if they're having sex, but it's not in the context of starting the marriage, if they're having it business, as it were, then yes, she's legally his wife. And if she were to commit adultery, she'd be, it would be a capital crime, etc. And if it's lahakim shem achiv hamet, if he now inherits his dead brother's estate, those things are true, but it is not full nisuin. Okay, until you basically plan for it to be a married life together, you have something similar to a chuppah, like you have sex in the context of nisuin, it's not full nisuin. So it's sort of like it's almost like a erusin. I mean, it doesn't say that. She's legally 100% his wife now. Again, adultery would be a capital crime. Other things that apply to the parsha, lahakim shem achiv, etc. But it's more like erusin than it is like nisuin.
But he's still to support her, right?
Yeah. So anyway, but the Gemara says, so according to Shmuel, you could have it a type of a Shomer Yabam after sex. And that's what you needed the pasuk to exclude. Okay, because she's not fully his wife, and the same way it excluded, and Arusa could exclude this Shomer Yabam after they've had sex. So the Gemara says, Ihachi, Lema Rav Damar Krebi Yoshaya, Shmuel Damar Krebi Yonasan. Oh, so let's say therefore that Rav who says that it is there, that after sex she's fully his wife. So for him, he must say like Rabbi Yoshaya, because Rabbi Yoshaya says that the Shomer Yabam does drink. So now we understand why Rabbi Yoshaya says the Shomer Yabam does drink. It's a little funny. The Shomer Yabam does drink because there's no such thing as a Shomer Yabam. Because basically, after they've had sex, Yabam doesn't drink. Is like Rabbi Yonasan. I mean, Shmuel says that she's not fully his wife. Says like Rabbi Yonasan that she doesn't drink. That sort of matches up. So the Gemara says, we'll just do the answer. Rav would tell you no. I can say like Rabbi Yonasan that the Shomer Yabam after sex doesn't drink. Since you needed a pasuk to exclude the Shomer Yabam, so without the pasuk, I would have said 100% his wife. But now the pasuk is telling you. Now this is crazy. Now, according to Rav, what we're saying is that they had sex. She's 100% his wife, right? After Yibum, right? Did the act of Yibum, 100% his wife. Nevertheless, the whole parsha of Sotah doesn't apply. Because, why? Because it's not a marriage that he chose, because it's a continuation of the brother's marriage. Meaning, until now, the reason you can't do the Sotah is because the marriage was not yet complete. Rav is now saying, I could in theory say that the pasuk is teaching you that after sex, because it's coming through Yibum, that nevertheless that's excluded from the category of Sotah. Okay, let's just finish one more line. V'Shmuel Amar Anadam Yafilu Rabbi Yoshaya. I would say even like Rabbi Yoshaya, who would include a Shomer Yabam. If you needed the pasuk to include Shomer Yabam, it means that she's not fully his wife. So yes, I mean, that's what we were thinking until now. Yes, a Shomer Yabam is not fully his wife, but it's close enough that it's being included, okay? So Shmuel could say, I would say after sex with Indun Biznus, she's not 100% his wife, and nevertheless, even though not 100%, she's enough in the parsha to be included for the drinking of the Sotah. And Rav could say, I would say that after sex, she's fully his wife, and nevertheless, since it's coming through Yibum, she's excluded. Okay. And with that,
once he actually does Yibum, though,